Hello everyone, welcome back to our French and English learning community. Today we're going to learn how to form a negative uh, phrase in French. And this will be the first video of a series, as in French we have a lot of grammatical rules. And today, basically, it will be simple sentences that have definite articles, which are le, la, l apostrophe, and les. And it will be followed by a quiz so that you can practice. Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue. Aujourd'hui, nous allons apprendre à transformer les phrases affirmatives en phrases négatives et ce sera une première vidéo qui fait partie d'une série de vidéos. Et les vidéos d'aujourd'hui, ce sera des phrases simples avec des articles définis. Et c'est parti, let's start. So now let's have a look at the rule on how to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence. And there are a couple of grammatical rules that we have to look at in order to understand how to form the negative form in French. So the easiest rule, and the first one is very easy. It's basically we just have to add ne et pas and then have the verb in between. And if the verb starts with a vowel and a silent H, we'll have to use an apostrophe N and then pas. However, if the H is aspirated, and you must be wondering what does it mean, it basically means what it is, aspirated. However, it's not really aspirated like you you don't it's basically you don't pronounce it. However, the negation with an H aspirated is different from the negation from a silent H, and I will explain it in the next segment. It will be useful to know that, and then I will add a list of words. There are not a lot of them, and some of them they're not recurrent, but some of them are quite recurrent in the French language, which will help you to find out if the H is aspirated. So now let's have a look at the first sentence. Um, so the first one is je mange. Je mange. I eat. And to transform this affirmative sentence into a negative one, we'll have just to add the ne and the pas and have the verb in between. And then it becomes je ne mange pas. Je ne mange pas. I do not eat. Let's have a look at the next sentence. Tu danses. Tu danses. You dance. In a singular form. And let's transform this one into a negative form, which becomes tu ne danses pas. Tu ne danses pas. Now, let's have a look at the sentence that follows, and it goes this way. J'habite. J'habite, which means I live. I live. And as you can see here, the verb starts with an H. And in this case, this H is silent. And unfortunately, there isn't any grammatical rule that would tell you which H is silent and which H is aspired. I know it's a bit annoying, because the French language has been influenced by the Latin language and Germanic languages, and then it has transformed, and those two languages have influenced the grammar. And and unfortunately, sometimes there are things that don't make sense, and this is how the language progressed. But there is a list that I will give you where you will see words that are considered um, aspired H. And in those cases, the negation is different from a silent H. So let's go back to our example. So here, j'habite, the verb starts with an H and it is considered as a silent H. Therefore, the negation will be an apostrophe N. So it becomes je n'habite pas. Je n'habite pas. I do not live. I do not live. So now let's have a look at our last example. Elle hausse les épaules. Elle hausse les épaules, which means she shrugs her um, shoulders. And here, hausse is an aspired H. Therefore, the negation will be elle ne hausse pas les épaules. Elle ne hausse pas les épaules. And with an aspired H, there isn't any liaison or elision. Basically, liaison, elision is when you have two letters coming in one sound. And with a aspired H, there is none. So basically, you have to pronounce every word. Elle ne hausse pas les épaules. We can't say elle n'ose pas les épaules. It's elle ne hausse pas les épaules. So let's have a look at an explanation of the aspired H to hopefully help you understand by um, its own definition. So let's have a look at the small explanation between the silent H in French and the aspired uh, H in French. So despite the name, the H aspiré is not aspired or otherwise pronounced in French. Nevertheless, it is distinct from the H muet, the silent H, in that it does not allow elision or liaisons. The H acts like a consonant. Let's have a look at an example. Um, je hais les hamacs. Je hais les hamacs. I hate hammocks. As you can see, the verb a, which means hate, starts with an H, right? And because it belongs to the aspired H, we will not do the elision with the je. So we are not going to write j'ai, but je hais. So likewise, the hammock is pronounced les hamacs and not les hamacs, meaning we don't do the liaison. We have to pronounce the article and then the noun, les hamacs. And that will tell you the difference between the H, the aspiré, and the uh, silent H. I know it's not easy, um, and it will take practice. However, I have put in the next segment a list of words, but not all of them are being used in everyday life, but some of them are, of that start with an H aspiré, and hopefully it will give you a chance to look at the list. And there are not like thousands of them, but there are a few of them, and it's basically trying to memorize them. So here's a list of words in French that have an aspired age. I have to say that I have not included all of them, and I think it's already overwhelming with this list. So I highly suggest that you look up the whole lists. If you Google aspired uh, H words in French, you will easily find out the complete list. But I thought it was helpful to learn the difference between those H's or H. So yeah, have a look at it, and by all means, I think it's all about practice. So let's continue our lesson with negative sentences. So now that we have looked at transforming a very basic sentence into a negative one by adding ne et pas, and then n apostrophe and pas, and then whether or not the H is silent or aspired. Now let's have a look at sentences that have a definite article after the verb, such as le, la, les, elle apostrophes. So let's have a look at this first example. Je regarde la télévision tout le temps. Je regarde la télévision tout le temps. If I have to translate this sentence, it is as follows. I watch the television all the time. So, for the sake of this example, I mean, in English, you wouldn't say that. We would say, I watch TV all the time. But I wanted to emphasize the definite article, which is la. Je regarde la télévision tout le temps. So let's transform it into a negative form. So let's remind us that we have to put the ne and the pas between the verb. So let's do that. Je ne regarde pas la télévision tout le temps. Je ne regarde pas la télévision tout le temps. So now let's have a look at another example. So the sentence goes, nous aimons le vin. Nous aimons le vin. We like the wine. We like the wine. As you can see here, the verb starts with a vowel. So when we have a vowel, we'll have to put an N apostrophe, and then it goes that way in the negative form. Nous n'aimons pas le vin. Nous n'aimons pas le vin. We don't like the wine. And finally, let's have a look at the last example before we do an exercise together. So here's the sentence. Elle prend le bus. Elle prend le bus. She takes the bus. And let's transform this into a negative form. Elle ne prend pas le bus. Elle ne prend pas le bus. So here it is. Now you know how to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence with a definite article. Le, la, les, elle apostrophes. So let's have a go and have a short quiz so you can practice together. And finally, let's have a look at the last example before we do an exercise together. So here's the sentence. Elle prend le bus. Elle prend le bus. She takes the bus. And let's transform this into a negative form. Elle ne prend pas le bus. Elle ne prend pas le bus. So here it is. Now you know how to transform um, an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence with a definite article. Le, la, les, elle apostrophes. So um, let's have a go and have a short quiz so you can practice together. So let's do the quiz now. So your first sentence is je danse. Je danse, which means I dance. So let's transform this sentence into a negative form. So it becomes je ne danse pas. Je ne danse pas. I do not dance. J'aime la soupe. J'aime la soupe. I like the soup. Je n'aime pas la soupe. Je n'aime pas la soupe. I don't like the soup. Le garçon joue avec le ballon. Le garçon joue avec le ballon. The boy plays with the ball. Le garçon ne joue pas avec le ballon. Le garçon ne joue pas avec le ballon. The boy does not play with the ball. And finally, Sarah va à l'école. Sarah va à l'école. Sarah goes to school. Sarah ne va pas à l'école. Sarah ne va pas à l'école. Sarah does not go to school. So there you have it. Today you have learned how to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence. Next time, we will learn how to transform an affirmative sentence that has an indefinite article. And you will see there will be other grammatical rules that will apply. I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to practice, and I will see you next time. Merci de nous avoir suivis. Et puis, n'oubliez pas de pratiquer votre français et je vous vois dans la prochaine vidéo. À bientôt. Au revoir.